I mean, welcome back if you were a part of some of the sessions this morning. If not, I see some fresh faces. That's also very awesome to see. Welcome in our VRT Marconi studio. Perhaps you know it, maybe you don't. So welcome. We're going to start talking about remote connectivity. And I have a question. Who here in the audience worked from home, remote home office in the last 2 years? I think that was a reality for all of us, so thank you, coronavirus. And we're going to talk about remote connectivity, and maybe thanks to the coronavirus, it has taken a huge leap in advance, and we all know about it, and maybe beforehand it was something unknown. Maybe a logical topic, and you've all heard about it, is 5G, and that's something we're going to talk about in 15 minutes. But there is another thing. I've placed something in my living room. It looks very exotic. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. This is Starlink. So thank you, Elon Musk, for this invention. And to introduce us to Starlink, we have Koen De Bolster from VRT. So Koen, come on stage and please introduce us to the strange object on the stage.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Koen De Bolster. I work for News Gathering and Transmission, and I'm gonna try to give you a little impression how VRT is trying to use Starlink for contribution these days. I still say trying because we are still doing some tests. So I don't think I tell something strange if I tell you VRT is a broadcaster. Most of people over here, they know that. We got several TV, radio channels, online brands. And all the content we have, news, sports, other events, series and films, we have to get them online. And a lot of them need to go live online. So we got our current contribution toolbox. We got RF links, we got satellite vans. Those are commonly used for bigger events like sports or music festivals. We got our 4G transmission backpacks we use for 90% or 99% probably now for live stand-ups in the news. This is what we have now, but because people get used to using the 4G backpacks, they are used to be in the middle of the action. And we got also some new challenges. So the new challenges, I got some examples of last year. So over here, I don't know if anybody knows this. The people from Dendermonde, they will. This is the Rosbejaard. This is a huge horse, and it comes once out of 10 years out of its stable. So all the people in Dendermonde, they like it, they want to come see it. Even with Corona, they had to wait 2 more years till this year. So they were very excited. A lot of people came to see this. Perfect for the news, perfect news content. So we sent a news crew over there. And they had this fantastic idea because, we have a 4G backpack. We can go live next to the horse. So at the moment, the horse arrives. They do their live stand-up in the 7-hour journal or the 7-hour news. And no transmission because all the people of Dendermonde were so excited. They took their cell phones, started to film, started to stream. 4G coverage went down, and the only thing we had was the 4G backpack because you are not able to park an SNG van or an RF truck in the middle of the crowd. So we had a bad live on antenna. Another example we have were the floods in Verviers. Some people may know, because of a huge amount of rain, there was a big flood, and this flood also broke down the electricity. Now, what do we need for 4G transmission and 4G antennas in the neighborhood? We need electricity. So no electricity, no 4G. All the news went over there, all the news crews, all the broadcasters, and most of them used the 4G backpacks. So issues to go live on antenna, issues to send their files back to VRT, or we needed to rent or send some SNG trucks. This is not a very good picture, but most of you probably will recognize it. This is a TV compound. A lot of trucks. If you take, for instance, the Tour de France, at every arrival you have this huge OB truck place, the compound. But if you go on holiday, for instance, to the Mont Ventoux, with your family, you take your smartphone with you, you will have 4G coverage. If you have an arrival on top of the Mont Ventoux, you have this complete OB truck crew, you have the journalist and a lot of spectators that are watching the final on top to see the finish. So when the races arrive, the racers arrive on top, all the people again start using their smartphones. The journalists, they want to connect with the home base. So 4G coverage is not enough. It goes down. Everybody blames the bad 4G quality, but you still need them over there. And the satellite connections, they're not that good to give you a very good network connection over there. Another example, Coldplay music concert or a Sheeran, whatever, doesn't matter. At the Koning Boudewijn Stadion this year, the moment the concert starts, 4G goes down. A big problem because we have news crews over there and they want to get their items in the journal. If you don't have 4G, the item you don't get the item at VRT. So that's what we started to think about Starlink. Starlink, you see one over there. This is a square one or a rectangular one. The first one was a round. This is a broadband satellite internet connection. It targets remote areas. That's also good because at remote areas you don't have a lot of 4G or 5G coverage. It is really dummy-proof. This is what it is. You just have a tripod, you plug in the antenna and you have a modem. 2 cables and it's fixed. It is dummy-proof and it is relatively cheap. I will come back to that later. The only problem we have, it's a beta program. So you don't have any SLAs, you can't complain if it doesn't work. Elon Musk gives you this antenna, and if it doesn't work, or he says, well, I plug out a satellite connection for 1 or 2 days, okay, it does what it does. So what do you need? You need, first of all, you need a credit card with some amount, and you buy a terminal. If you have that and it arrives, then you pay some subscription, a monthly fee. You can choose $90 or $120 for a month. If you pay $90, you can mount this on the top of your roof. But then it has to stay fixed. If you want no geoblocking, then you have to pay the $120 US dollars. So for us as broadcasters, we pay the 120. Maybe this is a little bit too bad on the system. It has, you need AC voltage because it's portable, it's small. It would be better if it would work on a battery because if you're in an abandoned area, it's not that easy to find electricity at that moment also. So you have this system, you plug it into the electricity, and then you need your smartphone. You have a Starlink app you can download and you can connect to the Starlink system, and so you can start your transmissions. Of course, over here it wouldn't work because we are inside. You need a clear view of sky because it has to connect with the satellites. The satellites, okay. For the moment, it will be a little bit more now. We have approximately 2,000 LEO satellites in the air today. But every month, Elon Musk sends a new rocket into the air. I think most people will have seen the Starlink train in the air by night. All the satellites on a nice row passing by. And 1,400 or 1,500 satellites are already active. That's not that much if you see what his goal is. So 42,000 satellites, it is really a lot. It is a low orbit constellation. This means the satellites fly at 550 kilometers above the Earth. That's not much if you compare this to a regular satellite we use for our satellite fans. It's at 35,000 kilometers away. So if you take the way the signal has to go in mind, it's one time up, one time down. So for a satellite connection with Starlink, you go 1,000 kilometers for the signal. If you do that for a regular satellite connection, you have 70,000 kilometers. So these kilometers, it has to do with some delay on your signal also. So the lower to the Earth, the lower the delay of the signal. So in this case, Starlink is performing better than a normal satellite connection because of the distance. For the moment, we have a really good coverage in EU and US. The coverage is okay, but that doesn't mean the service and the stability of the connection is already okay. Starlink, it is a black box, so you get this package when you buy it at Starlink, and Elon Musk sends you this by post. You have the app, where you can start your transmission. You can see if you're online. You can see which direction of the wind you have to do the positioning. And you see some small statistics of the last 2 hours, but you can't change any settings, nothing. This is what it is, and Elon Musk's, so yeah, you really have to trust the third party. Starlink is ruling everything. What are we trying to test at VRT? We want to know the up and the downlink UDP stability over time, the latency and the jitter measurements we want to know. Is bonding with 4G, is it working well? Is it working with bonding with a wired solution as some kind of backup solution for some projects it will be useful? Audio and video encoders we have, some in racks, some mobile. And what's the impact of rain and wind? Or snow, because we know the top of the Starlink, it is heated. So this is very good. If it snows and snow falls down on the top of the Starlink, it would melt. But the disadvantage of this heating is cats like it too in the winter. So if you have a Starlink on the roof, there are several photos on the internet where there are 2 or 3 cats lying down on the heated Starlink. What kind of test equipment have we? Have some live view mobile viewpoint encoders, the portable backpacks, scoop phone audio codecs, that's especially for radio, low delay audio. And we have a byte blower software where we can test quality, the quality of our connection, the delays, bandwidths. So that was what we wanted to do, and we did already some practical tests. The first one is Coldplay, because we knew from our experience in the past and the concert of Ed Sheeran, 4G will go down. So we gave the Starlink, I don't know if you can see it very well, but on top of the car, they have mounted the round antenna. Below, the crew is editing their item, and they were able to send the file on time before journal to VRT, because 4G at that moment was completely down, the concert was still busy. After the concert, they wanted to go live in the news, but because there were a lot of people still in the neighborhood, I think 80,000 people, there was 4G, but not enough to do a very good live stream. So they added the Starlink to their backpack. So it was a combination of Starlink with the 4G we still had. And in this case, they were able to do a perfect live in the journal. This week, we had the funeral of the Queen in England. They went to Hyde Park. In Hyde Park, a lot of people wanted to see the funeral because there was a lot of people inside of London who wanted to say goodbye to the Queen. So they knew 4G was very low at that moment, and to be sure they were able to go live, they took the Starlink and an additional battery, because inside of the park there's no voltage available to connect it. So they connected this to a power pack, and they were able to go live for 6 hours with this power pack. And to make it a little bit flexible, they connected the backpack to the Wi-Fi hotspot of the Starlink, and so they were able to walk 20 meters away from the Starlink, and they were not connected to any wires. Over here we have an example of the Tour de France crew, because what I told you on top of the Mont Ventoux, so they were able to connect and had a stable data connection. What do we already know? UDP below 3 megabits is stable. TCP is working unstable. Video encoders, they work, but not perfect because of the big jumps in bandwidth. Sometimes you go from 20 megabits to 2 megabits, and some video codecs crash. Audio codecs, they are unstable in long runs, and download is more stable than the upload, but like we say over here, you see a lot of similarities with 4G connections. So we always recommend to do some bonding or a failover. What do we want to do in future? Talk to other organizations, not only broadcasters, but even police or fire departments to see, because they have several similar needs as we as broadcasters and as guaranteed connections, 4G or data connections. We want to start using Starlink more at major events, like backup for the warmste week or radio programs with on rock character festivals, and also keep an eye on the markets. What will happen? What do other satellite providers do? So, with this, I think I gave you an impression how we work with Starlink at the moment. I don't know if there is any question. Oh.
Well, if there are any questions for Koen will be running around, so you can just step in on the shoulder and ask him any questions. How that are cats that are the natural enemy of Starlink. That's something new. I didn't knew about it. We're gonna keep talking about something very high tech, as I said earlier, about 5G. I think everyone has heard about it. It was in the news like 5 years ago, like it's finally coming, and then it was in the news like it's giving people corona. I mean, obviously that was not true, but I mean, I'm very anxious to find out where 5G actually stands at this point in time. So I'm very honored we can invite a true expert on the stage. Please welcome Morten Brandstrup from TV2 Denmark.
I mean, I need this one. Yeah. That was the only purpose. Hi. Yes, I'm really happy to speak about something that I'm maybe a little enthusiastic about, 5G. And we have been investigating a lot around 5G for now some years. I will start talking a little bit about private network and what we do in that field and what to learn from that. TV2 is part of a consortium together with these great companies, and that means we, on the content side, work together with RAI in Italy, and EBU and BBC's R&D. And I'm from the news department. I'm just, operational content creator, storyteller like the rest of you. But now we are actually working in a real R&D project. The purpose of 5G records, which is this project, is 3 user cases. It all ends up as I try to investigate what is possible to do with a private 5G network. So we're talking about a network, a 5G network that we are in control of, that we design and we operate. So it's not the same as the 5G I have on my smartphone. It's my own private network. And we have 3 use cases we are investigating. The one is live audio. That means this microphone and the in-ear system running on a network. And for that purpose, we need really, really ultra low latency. We're talking less than 4 milliseconds from this sensor to in-ear system, including all the processing, and that's really tricky to do. But the colleague from Sennheiser and Nokia is pretty close, and they have system up and running, and I will show you world first radio on that. And the third case is about the whole live immersive experience, also related to the stadium and venue experience, driven by one of the university and Nokia. But I will talk about the multiple camera setup, and that's probably, it's the same like a studio like here, but we would like to have the wireless camera up and running, and could that be replaced with a 5G network? And the answer, you will see that later. And why should we do this? Well, today we are challenged quite hard on the spectrum and access to the spectrum. So there's someone who wants our spectrum, the PMSE spectrum that we use for wireless video link, to actually extend the telco operation into that kind of band. Another, from a broadcaster or media company's side, it's also interesting for us to move that kind of service into the full IP. So what we do and what we work on in this project is, and I won't talk you through the whole things, but it's about the video encoder, the device is connected to the camera. It's the network you see here, which need then to be connected into the broadcast infrastructure. And one of the good things that we have learned in the project and developed is actually the gateway between the media as our production side and the 5G network. And this is the user case. You've probably seen a lot of this, the Steadicam running around for an event and music, the shows and so on. And most people think, no, this is about connecting the camera back to the truck or the studio gallery and so on. But in reality, we are talking about 10 to 11 different connections between the operator, the rec, and the production side. I mean, just the tally, that's a single bit, but most time we are actually using a radio channel to activate and turn on that light. And all this should, of course, in the future be IP, because that's where we're moving. It'd be NDI, it'd be an ST2110 or something like that. And what is the wireless equivalent to a fiber? Well, the only technology that are supposed to be able to run that, that's 5G. That should be that wireless technology that can do that. And, well, we had the... Did I step through one? But might be, no. We had the opportunity back in June to actually invite all our good colleagues to a session in Copenhagen. After working together now for actually 2 years, we had the first face-to-face meeting where we were meeting up in this whole consortium. You should imagine we have worked remotely on an R&D project, never met up before. So for the first time, we were hosting an event in Copenhagen, and we have a small studio inside of Tivoli, where we do the breakfast show. But the same day was actually where the whole Tour de France was presented inside of Tivoli, next to our studio. And the finish line for the first stage of Tour de France was here. So we have the studio, presentation, finish line. The whole city closed down. It was an OB compound. In the middle of this, we actually tried out several things around 5G. Not only the 5G private network, which was the 3 first days, but we also did some trials on dedicated service. I'll get back to that, what kind of service that was. So we brought all our good friends and colleagues into the studio and refurbished the whole studio, equipped it with the needed service for that. I can see that you are missing some of my video, but no, we'll get back to one of them later. And we used the opportunity also to invite all the regulator and all the telcos, and we were together with the Danish Industrial Society hosting an event at the same day. So we had 50 people coming into the studio and try to understand and teach them how we are producing content on 5G network. And yes, we then hosted an event at the same day, and that event ended up presenting this 5G live production for the first time, and we were also broadcasting that live on 5G, so it was a 5G broadcast trial as well. So we're doing full production and broadcasting it. And, and let's see how that actually works. Now my colleague will take you a tour, and this is the live production that we did from the studio and broadcasted into the conference center with all the experts from 5G. But let's rock and roll it here. Should I start the video, or will someone start the video?
We're here to talk about those important 5G records use cases, and you know there is a link from where we are here in the beautiful park and TV2 studio. There's the thrill of and all the excitement of the rides. There's the thrill and expectation of the Tour de France, which is coming here, and the time trials. And then there's today the thrill of high-speed connectivity with 5G for media production. So it's my great pleasure to talk about what we're doing here, and it's wonderful to have with me Paula Sunner from the EBU, the European Broadcast Union. Paula, you are with the Innovation and Technology Department.
Yes.
You're the technical coordinator for the 5G Records project. Tell us why this project was so important to the EBU.
Okay, thank you, Mark. For the EBU, it was very important to understand the implication and the challenges of using 5G and in particular private network, standalone network for professional live production. So 2 days ago, we came here with the 5G Records partners involved in the multi-camera use case in 5G Records, and then we started integrating all the components developed during the project, and I'm very proud and happy to say that it's working.
It's been a very complex 2 days.
Yeah, very complex, yes. But now, live from the Tivoli with the 2 cameras, wireless, 5G enabled, thanks to one of the components developed during the 5G Records project. Is a small box that integrates the codec and the modem, and then you'll see it in a minute.
Good to see you. So you're going to talk us through this extraordinary piece of kit here, which is a 5G network in a box.
Yeah, these are kind of quite key to our user case, really. When people think about 5G networks, they tend to think about the kind of large-scale networks that the mobile network operators provide. But we kind of quite early on thought, well, what if we could provision these types of networks in TV studios and on OBs outside broadcast? We could start to kind of use this technology in a slightly different way. So we've been working for quite a while with both standards and implementation to kind of look at it. And essentially what we've got here is a 5G core that's running on commodity hardware. It's an Intel i9 PC. Underneath that, we've got a radio head, which is the sort of radio amplifier. And then that comes out and it's going up to here, which is the antenna. It's a 2x2 MIMO antenna. So that's the heart of the system. So this is, as you can see, it's quite a prototypey box. I'll just spin it around there, Lars, so Anna can pick it up on the camera. But this unit here is our kind of the brains really that's on the camera. It's 5Com who make the modem that's inside here, and Ericsson have done a job where they've basically integrated an encoder and the modem, and effectively that's transmitting. It's taking the uncompressed video out from the camera. It's going into here. The magic that happens in here is the signal's squashed down, it's compressed into a signal that we can then send over the 5G network.
So all the signal you have seen here is running on our private network, and this is targeting the tier 1 event. This is to replace a studio camera or a camera on a stadium. So this is not bundled cellular. It's a totally different way of using the 5G, and it's for high-end production. And all the pictures you have seen, the 2-camera production, and including the audio. The audio was also running on the same wireless network. So it was a single 5G network with all the elements running. And that's what we expect, it's that IP wireless technology that we will need for our production, and 5G seems to be able to do that. And we can even now see that the pricing for the equipment is similar to what we have on the wireless network or the wireless video link as it is today. We also did another test, and time is running, but just to let you know, it's about millimeter wave. Where the OB compound was, we mounted a PTZ camera, and we had a wireless link across that whole congested 5G area. So this was again one of these where you cannot pick up a mobile signal because there was a lot of spectators, but we had a wireless fiber link across the whole venue. And we also did some drone testing. We are in a project where we are testing out flying a BLOS drone together with TDC and Ericsson, and therefore we have designed a service in the network to ensure that we have the full control of that. And that's really the next level where they expect the business to be. And this talk into the last thing I will talk about, because we are also doing a trial around actually ensuring that when there is this congestion in network and a lot of spectators, a concert and so on, that we have dedicated bandwidth. And we did that during the summer and Tour de France because that was exactly important. Otherwise, we couldn't really utilize from it. So this is a setup we have now established where we have extended TV2's production network directly into the RAN part of the network. And yes, finally, 4 weeks later, Tour de France was finished, and it was a Dane who won. And but then it had to be celebrated, and we were exactly in that position where there was a heavily congestion in Denmark. And let's see how we solve that short little thing.
Welcome to this presentation of a new car with embedded cameras that we are going to use tomorrow because we actually won the Tour de France. 3 inputs, 3 streams, and we had a camera here in the front doing the picture of Jonas Vingegaard, microphone, so we can do an interview with him. A camera from behind. We had a beauty shot of the whole car. On top of this we will have a helicopter and a motorbike. Jonas in the front and his daughter and girlfriend to the left. How do we get this stream to TV2? We use this quad-link cell with 4 embedded 4G modems. On the top of that, inside the Pro 460 we have 6 5G modems. And then we got this 450 MHz 4G router as well. And hopefully we can get something out of this when we enter in the center of Copenhagen, because there would be thousands of people, maybe 30,000, 50,000, who are using the mobile phone at the same time doing video streams and so on. Let's see what happens.
Der sætter han sig ind på passagersædet. Frida og Trine sidder bagved, naturligvis i en autostol til Frida, og så er det Jens Kassler fra DSU, der kommer til at køre bilen.
Vi er jo imponerede fans, og vi er jo vilde med det. Vi elsker cykling.
Og det her tror jeg godt, vi kan vende os til.
Prøv lige at se, de kan nærmest ikke komme igennem med bilen.
Ej, det er jo helt vildt, det der.
Det er virkelig rørende. Så tusind tak til alle danskere.
Det er virkelig rørende at se, hvordan danskerne bakker op.
Så kører han ind foran rådhuset.
Yeah, so just to close it down, that kind of professional 5G service is really important for us, and that's the whole purpose of what we do at the moment. We try to push the telco. So what the last thing you saw was in a public network that wasn't private, so we're both dealing with private network, having our own spectrum and do production in that, but also this kind of trial and pushing the telcos forward. And I just have to say, to all your colleagues, it's so important to keep the conversation with the telcos and pushing for this, because it's durable. The technology is there. They have to just enable it and give us that service that we need to make great content. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Morten, for sharing how Jonas Vingegaard was received in Denmark. Maybe we can do the same back in Belgium if Remco Evenepoel wins the Tour de France.
Come on.
It will happen, we're all sure of it. Thank you, Morten. That was everything for our session about remote connectivity. So now might be the time to sneak out if you have to do something else, of course. And we're gonna move to our next session. I see already a lot of people, a lot of VIPs on top.